Have you ever wanted something so badly, visualized it, prayed for it, repeated the affirmations, and still wondered why nothing seemed to change? Maybe the problem isn't that you don't want it enough. Maybe there's something happening underneath the desire that you haven't considered. Welcome to Breakthrough Weekly. I'm Monica Pelayo, your host. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, thank you for coming back. Each week, we explore the subconscious beliefs, patterns, and behaviors that can quietly shape the way you think, feel, and show up in your life. If these conversations resonate with you, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a new episode. This week, we're talking about manifestation, subconscious beliefs, and the missing piece that can quietly influence whether you actually move toward the life you say you want. Let's get into it. If you've ever looked into manifestation, you've probably heard the same advice. Visualize what you want, repeat affirmations, act as if you already have it, believe it will happen. For a long time, I thought manifestation worked that way too. I thought if I wished hard enough, prayed hard enough, or repeated enough affirmations, somehow what I wanted would eventually happen. It wasn't until years later, after I became certified as a hypnotherapist, learned the rules of the mind, and began studying manifestation and the law of attraction more deeply, that I realized something almost nobody had explained. The missing piece wasn't what I wanted, it was what I believed, not consciously, subconsciously. Once I understood that, I started looking back at different moments in my life through a completely different lens. One memory immediately came to mind. I was about 15 years old. We had just moved to Oregon and things were modest back then. There was only one bedroom, so I slept in the living room on the sofa. It was late at night, the lights were off, and the only light in the room was a small silver coming through the window. I was listening to a Spanish radio station when they announced they were giving away a ticket to a concert in downtown Portland. I wanted it so badly. I remember sitting there in the dark, praying to the Virgin Mary, to God, to Jesus, hoping I would win. I kept calling, but all I heard was a busy signal. I would hang up, dial again, hear another busy signal, and I try one more time. My heart was already racing, but I didn't stop. I just kept calling. Then suddenly, instead of another busy signal, the phone started ringing. My stomach dropped. That nervous kind of drop, and I froze for a second because I almost couldn't believe it. I had actually made it through. A few moments later, I found out I had won. I still remember the butterflies in my stomach and wanting to scream because I was so happy. Then catching myself because everyone else was sleeping. That memory has stayed with me because it was one of those moments when I tried for something and actually got it. There were plenty of other times I tried and didn't. But that night, I remember feeling so proud of myself and excited to tell everyone. At 15, I attributed what had happened to my faith because I had prayed so intensely for that ticket. For years, that was where the story ended for me. I saw it as one of those moments when God answered a prayer. Today, I still believe faith was part of it, but now I can also see the second part more clearly. I believed winning was possible. That belief was what kept me willing to continue instead of giving up after the first busy signals. If I had believed there was no chance of winning, the thought would have been completely different. What's the point? That would have changed how I felt and eventually what I did. I probably would have stopped calling and told myself it wasn't going to happen anyway. That experience didn't teach me how manifestation worked. Years later, it helped me understand it. Belief doesn't replace action. Belief sustains action. One of the principles I learned during my hypnosis training, and one that is also commonly discussed in manifestation and the law of attraction, is that the universe mirrors what you believe. Over the years, I've come to understand that principle in a very practical way. It's not about sitting back and hoping the universe delivers what you want. Your subconscious beliefs influence your thoughts influence your emotions, and all of these combined, your beliefs, your thoughts, your emotions, dictate what actions you take, which determine whether you place yourself in the path of the opportunities you say you want. This is where many people get stuck. Most manifestation conversations focus on what you consciously want. Very few help you understand the beliefs operating underneath that desire. You may consciously say you want a promotion. You may consciously say you want a healthy relationship. You may consciously say you want financial freedom. But if your subconscious beliefs conflict with those desires, the subconscious will always win. In the model I learned during my hypnosis training, the subconscious mind is responsible for approximately 95% of your automatic thoughts, emotions, habits, and behaviors. That means your subconscious desire may be completely genuine, but it is competing with the part of your mind that is influencing how you think, what you say, the actions you take, and the opportunities you pursue every single day. Over time, those core beliefs can become part of your identity. I'm not good enough can become I'm not capable. I don't belong can become I'm not someone who belongs in that room. And what I want isn't available to me can become people like me don't get to have that kind of life. Once a belief becomes part of how you see yourself, your mind begins making choices that protect and reinforce that identity, even when it conflicts with what you consciously say you want. That is why simply asking yourself, do I believe that is possible, doesn't go deep enough. The deeper question is, what do I believe about myself? This is where manifestation becomes more practical than most people realize. Your subconscious beliefs don't just sit quietly in the background, they influence how you see yourself, what feels possible for you, and ultimately what you do. If you don't believe you're capable, you may never apply for the promotion. If you don't believe healthy love is available, you may settle for relationships that don't meet your needs or stop putting yourself out there altogether. If you don't believe financial freedom is possible, you may avoid negotiating your salary, starting the business that you've been thinking about, or investing in yourself because some part of you already has decided it won't work. The conscious desire is still there. You still want the promotion, the relationship, or the financial freedom. But the belief underneath it can influence whether you take the actions that actually move you forward. And that's the connection to manifestation that often gets missed. You can visualize what you want and repeat affirmations every day, but if a deeper belief is still telling you that you're not capable, you don't belong, or what you want isn't available to you, that belief will continue influencing the choices you make. So if your subconscious belief can quietly influence whether you move toward or away from what you consciously want, the next question becomes, what are those beliefs? Over the years, I've noticed that many different struggles tend to come back to three core beliefs. I'm not good enough. I don't belong. What I want isn't available to me. The situation changes, but the belief underneath it often doesn't. Imagine you've been eyeing a promotion over a year. You've qualified, you've done that work, but every time the opportunity comes up, you tell yourself the timing isn't right, or that your manager probably has someone else in mind. So you stay quiet in the meeting where you should have spoken up. You let someone else's name get attached to the project you actually led. It's not that you don't want the promotion. Somewhere underneath you don't believe leadership is meant for someone like you, and that belief is quietly making the decisions for you. Imagine you want a steady, healthy relationship, someone who stays. But every time a relationship starts to get close, you find a reason to pull back first. You tell yourself you're just being cautious, or that you haven't met the right person yet. But if you look closer, there's an older belief running underneath that people eventually leave. So it's safer to leave first. You're protecting yourself from having the belief confirmed that people eventually leave. Imagine you want financial freedom badly enough to talk about it constantly, but you never negotiate your salary, never start the business idea you had for years, or never take the financial steps you know could move you forward. You grew up hearing that money doesn't grow on trees, that people like your family don't get to have that kind of money. So even now, with the means to change that story, some part of you has already decided it won't work, and you avoid the very actions that would prove otherwise. Different goals, different circumstances, often the same core beliefs. The difficult part is that most people don't consciously know what the belief is. If you knew exactly why you didn't feel capable, worthy, deserving, or why something didn't feel available to you, you probably would have addressed it already. This is where hypnosis can help. In my work, I'm not simply asking someone what they want to manifest or telling them to repeat a more positive affirmation. I'm helping them identify the subconscious belief underneath the pattern, understand where it came from and why the mind has continued holding on to it, and then work on changing that belief so it supports the person they want to become and the life they want to create. One client I worked with had already spent about 5 years focused on personal growth. She had tried different coaches and approaches and knew she wanted things in her life to change, but she still wasn't seeing the level of progress she wanted. During our first session, we began looking at the core beliefs underneath the challenges that had been showing up across different areas of her life. After the session, she shared that she was amazed by why her subconscious revealed beliefs she had carried for years without realizing how deeply they had influenced her life and her decisions. She committed to continuing the work, and a month later, she had shared that she felt happier, more confident, and most importantly, knew how to continue moving forward. That's why identifying the core belief matters. You can consciously want something for years and put a tremendous amount of effort into changing it. But if you don't understand the belief operating underneath that pattern, you may continue repeating it without understanding why. If you consciously want the promotion but subconsciously believe you're not capable, we need to understand why. If you want a healthy relationship, but some part of you believes love isn't available to you, repeating that you deserve love isn't necessarily addressing what underneath it. The same applies to money, confidence, success, or whatever else you're trying to create. That's the work I help people do through hypnosis. Uncover the belief underneath the pattern and begin changing it at the subconscious level so your beliefs, identity, and actions can start working toward the life you actually want. One of the biggest misconceptions about manifestation is that it is only about attracting what you want. That is not the whole story. Manifestation is also about whether your subconscious beliefs support the life you are trying to create. You can consciously desire the promotion, the relationship, or the financial freedom, but if your subconscious believes you're not good enough, you don't belong, or what you want isn't available to you, those beliefs will quietly influence your thoughts, your language, your decisions, and your actions. Your belief system is your operating program. When your conscious desire conflicts with the subconscious belief, the subconscious wins. That belief influences your patterns, habits, decisions, and willingness to take the risk required to move toward the life you say you want. And the journey isn't always easy. Think back to the phone call. It wasn't one dial and I won. It was busy signal after busy signal before it finally went through. Some situations take longer, some require more rejection, more patience, and more time. What matters is continuing to believe you're deserving and worthy of what you want, so you keep moving toward it instead of letting one setback decide the outcome. As you think about something you've been trying to create in your life, ask yourself, do I truly believe what I want is available and attainable for me? If the answer is no, what belief about myself is making it feel unavailable? That answer may reveal far more than you realize. Next week, I want to explore another piece of manifestation that is just as important: why your thoughts, language, and affirmations often fail to create change when they conflict with what your subconscious believes. If you know what you want but keep finding yourself stuck in the same patterns, there may be a subconscious belief underneath it that you haven't identified yet. During a complimentary exploratory call, we'll talk about what you want to change, what may be keeping you stuck, and how I work with your subconscious beliefs through hypnosis, and whether working together makes sense for you. Schedule a complimentary exploratory call at thethrivingpathways.com/appointment. If today's episode resonated with you and you're curious about what may be happening underneath the patterns you keep repeating, I invite you to take the next step and schedule a complimentary exploratory call. You'll find the link in the episode description. And before you go, make sure you subscribe to Breakthrough Weekly so you don't miss next week's episode. If something stood out to you today, leave a comment and let me know what resonated. And if you know someone who could benefit from hearing the conversation, share this episode with them. Thank you for listening. I'll see you next week.